So, hello, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. We have people speaking from China, so very late today in the day. Thank you very much for joining us. Another IICA-COLEAD session, actually number 14 already. I'm Isolina BOTO from COLEAD, and I'm very happy to organize with Axel and other colleagues this session with Alistair, Roxanne, and other colleagues from IICA. Very important topic today, the innovations of Caribbean entrepreneurs in climate resilient technology, a topic that really interests and affects all of us. I will pass the floor to Jeremy, but before that, just quickly, as you know, we have interpretation, English, French, and Spanish due to the very international audience we have. So make sure that you select your language in the little globe at the bottom of the screen, which says interpretation. You click and you just choose the language. The rest, please put your questions, contributions, and so on in the chat of the session today. We will be sharing some documents as well and some resources. And on the Q&A, post the questions. And at the end of the session, at the end, when everybody would have spoken, we will have the Q&A session, but put them from the start. As soon as you have them, post them, and then we will consolidate them towards the end. So without major delay and in the interest of time and listening to the very good speakers we have from the region, I pass the floor to Jeremy Knops, the DG of COLEAD. So the organization I work for, non-for-profit private sector association in the agri-food sector, for operators working in the agri-food sector, of course in the Caribbean, but much beyond. We are in all continents. Jeremy is the DG. He has a very strong background of course, on the agri-food sector, also on the food safety, training and capacity development. And I will tell you a few words, I will share a few words on the perspective from COLEAD to this very important topic. Please, Jeremy, and thanks for joining.
Thank you very much, Isolina, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. It's a pleasure, of course, to be here with you again at this 14th session organized in collaboration with IICA. And so this is, of course, the opportunity for me to thank IICA for this continued and fruitful partnership, but also to thank, of course, all panelists for the time that you have made available for us today. And of course, thank all participants to be here with us. And I'm sure we'll have some interesting perspectives, questions, and exchanges during, but also following this this very important session. I won't be long, of course, because what interests us is first and foremost to listen to you, to your stories, to your successes, to your experiences. But in a nutshell, so as Isolina said, we're a private sector, not-for-profit organization. As such, we really define our mission as leading all activities in the agri-food space that contribute to achieving SDGs. And of course, within SDGs, combating climate change is an important one. Now, the relationship of agri-food systems and climate change is a complex one. Of course, we all know, and this is specifically and especially the case in the Caribbean region, that the sector and of course the operators and people within that sector are the first victims of climate change. But we also know that agri-food systems globally are part of the issue when it comes to climate change. But we also know that agri-food systems, agriculture, can be part of the solution when it comes to fighting climate change. So we have this triptych relationship, which makes it, of course, complex, and which requires ourselves as an organization to really make sure that we bring an added value where it has some added value compared to the actions of other organizations, of research centers, for example. Now, what we do know at COLEAD, and given our experience and given our work, with MSMEs, with their direct kind of ecosystem environment. Is that when it comes to climate change, they're kind of and in the building, of course, of more resilient food systems, what we're all aiming at doing. That there's three major steps. The first one, of course, is to improve the capacity to absorb shocks and absorb kind of violent events that can take place, climate disasters. That's the kind of first step. Then in the medium term, it's a question of how to adapt, and then ultimately it's how to really conduct a real transformation towards more resilient and agri-food systems in the longer run. And in order to do this, there are a mix of elements that need to be implemented, of course, and it's a holistic action that is required in complex systems with local specificities. But we do know that it will require some action at a policy level. It will require some action at the level of skills, competencies, know-how, information. It will require some action at the level of innovation and new technologies. Hence, here the focus, of course, of the session of today. And within all this, of course, it will require some funding. We personally, as an organization, believe at COLEAD of in order to drive these changes in complex systems in light of this huge challenge that affects us all, that it has to be done in partnership, of course, with fellow organizations such as IICA, but in partnerships more broadly between public, private sector, civil society, research, academia, and more. So that's in a nutshell, to put kind of an umbrella from our perspective. All our actions at COLEAD are increasingly geared towards bringing coherency into this overall approach in bringing more resilience to agri-food systems. The core of our focus under a program such as Fit for Market Plus, which is funded by the EU and OECPS, will really be on this second step of adapting to the impacts and the effects of climate change. And we hope to be able to increase the work we do to be more acting at a transformation level over the medium to longer run, which does require for sure innovation and smart technologies. So yes, that's in a nutshell. I wish you all a very interesting and fruitful session. I'm looking forward to listening to you. Thank you. Thank you again for being with us. Isolina, back to you. And Alistair, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. So I get to my co-organizer, Alistair Glynn, who is IICA representative in Barbados. But in addition to that, you would know him for many years for his strong background, interest, passion, and knowledge of agri-food systems and value chain in the Caribbean, but much beyond. As you see this, you would see from the chat and those who come regularly, that those sessions attract people from all over the world. So we are very thrilled. So Alistair, I give the floor to you. I don't know if you want to say a quick word on the topic today from an IICA perspective, and you will gladly also moderate the next panel. Thank you, Alistair, and thank you of course, to you and your colleagues for the work.
Thank you very much for Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Isolina. And Jeremy, your words were well received. I want to extend a hearty welcome to all our panelists as well as our audience out there. Knowledge is power, and we believe these sessions are so important to enhancing agri-food systems across the region. Interestingly enough, this session comes right before our Caribbean Week of Agriculture to be held in St. Vincent and the Grenadines this year from the 7th to the 11th of October. And the focus, as I said, is on building climate resilience. And for the region, with us focus on reducing our food import bill by 25% by 2025, addressing enhancing agri-food systems is important. So this topic, which looks at innovations of Caribbean entrepreneurs in climate resilient technologies, is also important. As Jeremy would have highlighted, the issue of climate change is real, and we need to recognize that increasingly we are at the risk of various climate-related events. We are talking about prolonged droughts, increasing or intensifying heat, heavy rainfall, flooding, storm events, and we saw quite recently the effects of Hurricane Burrell, and of course, generally the erratic weather patterns. So we want to find mechanisms that can allow us to enhance our production systems. Coming out of COVID, we saw that there was a decline in production, and we want to put in place mechanisms to support improved production on the part of the farmers. So this topic is so important because we can hear from various entrepreneurs and support agencies what are the innovations that can allow us to be more resilient and get us to that place where we are enhancing food security in the region. So we have a wonderful panel, a group of persons who are going to share their experiences and their innovations. And generally, out of this session, we wanted to be thought-provoking. Make no mistake about that. So we really need to ask ourselves a few questions. We need to understand what are the various practices and innovations that can really allow us to adapt to the varying climatic conditions and boost our food security in the region. We need to understand what are the key success factors or the critical success factors that influence the implementation of these various innovations. And finally, which is always an exciting part for me, we want to determine what organizations, who are the players that can support entrepreneurs to adopt these technologies. And as I said, we have two panels. The first panel will hear from the entrepreneurs. The second panel will hear from support agencies who can address that third question that I raised. So I don't want to talk too much. Let me get straight into the action. We would like to start with the first panel that allows us to hear from the entrepreneurs who are incorporating these technologies. I'm happy to introduce, first of all, Ms. Christina Puller, who is the owner of Zantarea Farms in Barbados. And I am based in Barbados, as Isolina said, so I'm really happy to start off with someone from Barbados. I'm a bit biased. And Christina is a third-generation agriculturalist and the owner of Zantarea Farms. Hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's a one-acre family-owned farm here in Barbados and has over a decade of experience in agricultural project management and community engagement. Christina is very passionate about promoting regenerative and climate-resilient agriculture and fisheries through research, education, community outreach, and stakeholder engagement. Her background is in building and civil engineering, interestingly enough, computer science, and she recently completed a Master of Science in Natural Resource and Environmental Management. All of that enables her to implement climate-resilient agricultural systems effectively on her farm. She was part of the 2022 cohort of the Young Leaders of America initiative and the third generation of the Inter-American Institute Science Technology Policy Fellowship in 2023. She recently concluded a year-long fellowship with the NOAA CERME's Climate Resilience Enhancement Program, where she researched and conducted an experimental study on sustainable agriculture and climate resilience here in Barbados. Currently, she's working with the Caribbean Research and Development Institute, CARDI, on a sargassum project that addresses climate resilience in the region. And she's focusing on the development and evaluation of sargassum-derived products for potential integration into agricultural practices. So we see Christina brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to this topic. I want to invite her to make her presentation. Each presenter will have 10 minutes, and I want to encourage the audience to place their comments or questions in the chat, and we'll respond to them at the end of all the presentations. So again, place your questions and comments in the chat, and we will address them at the end of the presentations. So with that, let me invite Christina to deliver her 10-minute presentation. Christina, the floor is yours. Hi, Christina, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, good morning. I can hear it clearly. Yeah, so my name is Christina Puller, and as I said before, I'm the owner of Zantarea Farms. Moving on to the next slide. So our farm is a sustainable farm located in Barbados, as mentioned before, and we aim to connect persons to their food through efforts with production, research, education, and stakeholder engagement. Right now, our reach is predominantly with the local food market. So from farm gate directly to agri-processors. So for example, with BADMC, which is the Barbados Agriculture Development and Marketing Corporation, also at different eco markets and farmers markets across the island, and of recent, Welbeck's, which would have been a niche market that recently closed, who carried some of our products as well. Our target would be mainly local customers at this point, agri-processors and the culinary industry to help promote local production and access to local foods here in Barbados. Outside of the production, the next thing that we look at is personal development. So doing consultations with farmers and persons in fisheries. So connecting both the land and the sea, and also mentoring other persons, especially young women and youth in agriculture, and different technologies that they can use to involve within their businesses or businesses within agriculture. Additionally, I'm involved with research, so looking at soil and plant health. So moving on to the technologies that are actually involved in Zantarea farms. So like other farmers here on the island and across the region, we do have challenges with extreme flooding, droughts, pests, and disease occurrences. And then one major issue that we usually face is water access. So looking at different technologies that doesn't necessarily break the bank, it's effective long-term, and looking at how the business still remains profitable while investing in these climate resilient technologies. Another aspect which influence the investment in some of these technologies would also be the environmental impact that the farm would have with the production, both in the short and the long term, as it relates to soil health, plant health, and the overall impact on the Barbadian climate. And then looking at how to balance finances and the environmental impact, as well as making the business profitable. Everything in the business, I would say, is interconnected. So try not to produce any waste and keep everything circular and operational. So for example, in the solar technology aspect, our chicken area is off-grid. So we do water catchment for the chickens. We have pressure regulated waterers that reduces the waste and evaporation of water for the life cycle of the layers and broilers for meat and egg production. And then we also have solar panels, which operates the brooder and the lighting for security cameras and so on. For water and soil management, as was mentioned before, I am involved in research as well. So we would have looked at using different waste products that are produced on island. So doing some research with coconut waste to see how that helps with water retention and soil health. Looking at using manure and locally produced biochar to see how that affects plant growth, nutrients in soil, and also fruit production. Water and soil management, we would have used pressure regulated irrigation and water catchment as well. So we would catch water from the roofs that are located on the property to help reduce the costs as it pertains to domestic or irrigated water that's available on the property. And then that also leads to weed management. So with the use of the coconut fiber, using the black mulch, and then also row covers to help reduce the weed help reduce the amount of weeds that are on the fields, reducing pests, so minimizing the amount of inorganic inputs that go into reducing pest pressure and so on, and also free raising the chickens. So you can see in the top right-hand corner, we use our chickens as a multi-purpose animal. So they also help with the suppression of weeds on the property as well, and pests. For the indoor aspect now, we just recently started back microgreen production. So that wouldn't be affected as much by the severe weather conditions that we would have, because that area is a bit more controlled. We're hoping to have that off-grid as well. But I work closely with 2 international companies to make sure that we have the best selection of seeds available based on our climates, and also the necessary equipment based on the setup that I have and everything. So working with persons more knowledgeable in certain areas than I am has really been beneficial to the business as well. So keeping that interconnectivity with stakeholders and persons that can help guide or have similar ethos to help propel the business in terms of using climate resilient technologies. Moving on to the production now. We have a few photos here of what is being produced on the farm. I tend to try to keep to various niche products, to not to overextend the business as much, but just tailor it based on the demand from the customers and the different products I can make to reduce the wastage on the farm as well. So doing some research with sun-dried tomatoes, and then I've benefited from workshops, for example, from IICA and other places to like streamline the labeling and packaging to reduce the loss between fields and up to the point that it gets to market or on the shelves. Moving on to expansion plans. So any opportunity that I do get to travel, I making an effort to go to a farm or a research station to see what others are doing, see what advice I can get, what other things I can learn about technology, persons from in similar climates and so on. So this photo would have been from 2022 at the Catamounts fuel station in Vermont, USA. And I would have experienced numerous practices that they would have. So this is a high tunnel that they have to help extend growing seasons. So this is something that I'm investigating at this point. And I'm in communication with the team there to help guide as to how to go about the setup and everything, and what works with our Caribbean climate. And then last year, I would have been in Hawaii visiting the Ma'o organic farms to see what similarities they have with us, and also what lessons I can learn from them that can be applied here on my farm. For essential equipment, there is a significant challenge with access to tractors or persons to do earthworks or land preparation. So I've recently got my tractor license. So another thing I'm looking to possibly do is to invest in a tractor, a small tractor that can work on the farm, or a walk-behind tractor and other big equipment that can help streamline the process of production to make sure that the products are reliable, that things are reliable and available, to make sure that there's that trust in terms of having the products available on a timely manner and on a consistent basis to customers. And then another aspect that we're looking into is possibly exporting those niche products. So for example, the sun-dried tomatoes, and then having other agro-processed products being available on the both regionally and possibly in the international market. Finally, I wouldn't be able to do all of this or implement these climate resilient technologies without support throughout the years from a number of organizations who lended support, guidance, mentorship, and so on. So I couldn't do all of this without giving, recognition to all the support that I would have gotten throughout the years from inception to this point on. So I'm very thankful for the support that I've gotten in the past and the support that I'm currently getting from various entities and individuals as well. That brings me to the end of my presentation, and I hope that I was able to share knowledgeable information to persons, and if there are any questions or any follow-ups, you can feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. That was a very insightful presentation. I don't know where to begin. You're quite dynamic. I noted that you just got your tractor license. And it's interesting that you're using traditional and modern practices, traditional indigenous, I should say, using the coconut waste and the manure and cutting costs in terms of water resource management and addressing weed management as well, incorporating your chickens as a multi-purpose type function, and even using the science for seed selection. And I'm happy to hear of your collaboration with multiple entities where you get information, where you share knowledge, etc. And there's a lot you seem to have to offer to us as listeners and stakeholders, and of course, enhancing food production generally. So I want to encourage the audience, please put your questions in the chat for Christina, and we can hear from her later on in the program. So again, thank you, Christina, for the wonderful presentation on time management. I'll move on quickly to our next presenter, Mr. Itajah Simmons, who's the owner of Simmons Pepper and Vegetable Farms out of Antigua and Barbuda. So we're going up north, and I know Antigua and Barbuda has a strong interest and focus on addressing climate resilience given issues with drought, etc. And again, we have another engineer. Itajah is a mechanical engineer by profession with expertise on biogas production. Very interesting. In 2017, he started to rent a plot of land from the agriculture department in Antigua and Barbuda with the intention of doing biogas production. And while preparing for that particular project, he planted crops, which was the beginning of his enterprise, Simmons Pepper and Vegetable Farm. It was just a hobby at the beginning or an extra activity. And he was able to see financial gains through this particular intervention. And then he expanded into it further, more as a business venture. So Simmons Pepper and Vegetable Farm produces nowadays a variety of crops for the local market. So we're excited to have Mr. Simmons on this morning. And again, we invite him to deliver a 10-minute presentation. And colleagues listening, and let's put our comments, questions in the chat. Thank you. Itajah, floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, to be able to share with our international colleagues across the states. So, as mentioned, my name is Itajah Simmons. I did my studies in mechanical engineer. I have a master's in renewable energy and energy efficiency. And somehow I fell in love with farming. And so there goes one of my greatest desires for today. So as our moderator mentioned earlier, that I began renting a plot of land from the government with the intention of setting up a biogas station where I would have been using pig manure for the production of methane with the intent of distribute throughout the community and doing it as a business. But things didn't work out because of financial constraint. And so I proceeded to start doing some crop farming. And that's where my business in agriculture started. Next page, please. So throughout my years in farming, we have received numerous support, and one of the support was from the Mexican agency. It is what we call like a water nexus project, where we focus on water harvesting, storage, and also using different means in which we can irrigate the crops. And one of those means is to reduce the use of diesel or gas engines for irrigation purpose. So we were awarded solar panel, solar pump, and also a storage bladder, which stores approximately 5,000 gallons of water. On your right, on your left, you see where we had the field day where the technicians came and looked at the installation that was done. Those are all the members. You have members from IICA as well there on that. IICA had a critical part to play in assisting in this installation. On the right, we have a group photo here. And as you see, the focus was sustainable, aiming at meeting the sustainable development goals. And in the background, we have quite a few farmers who came to see what the setup is like on my farm. Next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, this was a SIDS project using integrated water energy nexus approach. Objective to increase food production and security within the Caribbean through improved water energy management, in addition to increase in resilience in climate change. Next page, please.
I'm not sure.
So
okay.
in the
go ahead, Itajah. You froze for a bit.
Oh, yeah. So indeed, so far, this project with the intervention of international funding agency has been quite profitable. It has helped in improving the way in which we're able to now irrigate our crops. So as mentioned earlier, I started out planting a lot of different crops. I think I was doing maybe about 10 different crops. And I recognized that that wasn't a sustainable or good practice. So therefore, I began to narrow down the crops in order to focus in and specialize in a particular production. And I successfully narrowed it down to the production of peppers and watermelon. As seen on the screen, we have the seasoning peppers, we have the colored peppers, the banana type peppers, and we have the watermelon, yellow, red, and orange. And so in Antigua, when you speak about colored pepper, Simmons Farm is the farm that you would visit to get these different varieties. And of course, some of our seeds come from the Caribbean Chemical located in Trinidad and Tobago. They have been quite instrumental in the development of the agriculture sector within Antigua and Barbuda, in conjunction with our local CMC market here in Antigua. Next slide, please. So with the assistance of these agencies, I was able to be named in the area of watermelon. I was the 2023 calendar farmer for watermelon within the Caribbean, helping the development of these varieties along with Caribbean Chemical. This one is a sugar baby, Tarzan, it's a red watermelon. We also had a field day with Caribbean Chemical technicians, which you would see in the tent on the right of the screen, where they came to see how the production was going, how the different varieties of seeds were being developed in the country. They're resistant to fungus, they're resistant to pests, they're resistant to different stress levels, drought, flooding, and so forth. So in 2023, that's last year, it was a very successful year. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In terms of achievements. So this is one of the field that I did here. This is about 2,000 plants I have on this plot. And as mentioned earlier, the seeds came from Caribbean Chemicals out of Trinidad and Tobago. We have the Extreme, the Tarzan, and we have what we call the Yellow Baby. Out of this plot, we were able to produce about 13,000 pounds of watermelon. And that is, of course, with, as I mentioned, the help of these technicians. Technicians are very helpful in terms of helping the farmer to develop his or her skill and to increase and to have food security within the region. So this is my niche market. I only do watermelons and peppers, and my aim is to seek to improve. And one of our barriers or hindrances with this production is weeds. And so we have issues in terms of getting the necessary technology to help to minimize the cost of managing weeds. And so we know that the ground covers are available, but sometimes the cost to the farmer, the upfront cost is high. And so one of the things that we have been lobbying for is that if the products become available to us at a reasonable cost, definitely it's something that we as farmers would implement in our production so that we can have a better increase in our food quantity and also quality. Next slide, please. Also, just to note, all of my melons are sold on the local market. Some hotels would take them, but most of it is sold on the local market. So there is a high demand for it. There isn't enough. As I tell you, I reap like 12,000 pounds, and that is sold in a week. The whole field, finishing in 7 days. And so the demand is that high. Presently, I have another 5 acres of land, and it's only 2 of us who does all this work. And so if we can have access to the ground covers, we're able to go deeper into production for a better increase in food security. Next slide, please. This is my other production, the peppers. As you see, it's open field. No, the weed management is done by manual labor, which we call weeding. And so that is, as mentioned earlier, it's something that we would like to change using the wood woven fabric, that technology. This field normally suffers loss through weed growth, the inability to control the amount of weeds that grow, especially when the rainy season begins to hit us. It's nearly impossible to control weeds without having these technology in use. And so what you'd find that the lifespan of a field like this is 5,000 plants here. The lifespan of a field like this only lasts for 3 months due to weeds. That is how devastating weeds affect these fields. So a field that should last 7, 8 months tops in an open condition only lasts us for 2, 3 months sometimes, especially during the rainy season. And so we can definitely say with the ground fabric for weed control would definitely boost the production of these peppers. Next slide, please. So these are the peppers that field produced. As you see, the quality is second to none. The lifespan on these peppers, I've had customers giving report. They have them within the refrigerator, not in the freezer, in the lower part, for a month, and they do not spoil. So the potential within the small islands to produce quality crops, the potential is very high. We just need access to the right technology where we can prolong growing period and harvesting. Next slide, please. So this is another slide of our slide of our harvesting technique, where we harvest them in crates and then we would take them away into the van, clean them, and then package them to be sold on the local market. Next slide, please. And I'm just highlighting some of the products that we use within our watermelon and pepper production. we try to keep it as close to organic as possible, as close. And so these are products that we find coming out of Trinidad and Tobago from Caribbean Chemicals. And we at Simmons Farm, we are strong at organic. So we do our best to keep it as natural as possible. Next slide, please.
Mr. Simmons, just want to ask you to take about a minute to wrap up.
Yes.
Give time
Yes.
constraints. Thank you.
Right. That's the last slide. So one of the last things that we now started implementing on the farm is the drone technology, where we use the spray drone to do our spraying so that we can have less contact with chemicals. So we use this as a health. We call it our health insurance plan, so that we have less contact with the chemicals. So that's it for us today. And once again, I'm grateful that could be a part of this discussion today. Thank you.
Mr. Simmons, thank you very much for that presentation. It's really good to hear from Antigua and Barbuda, and the quality of the peppers highlighted is second to none. I'm blown away by the quality I've seen and the focus on generally producing high value crops. And it's interesting that you spoke a lot about your collaboration with other private sector players to boost your overall sustainability. And you're very creative. I hope that we can have some more discussion. I'm encouraging the audience again to put their questions in the chat. And first, I did address that weed management issue. I think that's important for all of us across the region. And I recognize the importance for Antigua and Barbuda, as you highlighted. And again, to close, how you focus on the use of drone technology for spraying. I think that's important for all of us today. And it's a key innovation that can boost our climate smart practices, etc. And what's important, the drone technology is not just to enhance sustainable food production, but it seems to enhance your own health by reducing your contact with the various chemicals, etc. I think that's outstanding. So again, Mr. Simmons, we want to thank you for that presentation. And again, invite persons, put their comments, questions, queries in the chat, and we'll tackle them afterwards. Moving on quickly, we want to take our third presenter. So we're going across the islands. Now we're hopping over to the wonderful island of St. Lucia, the Helen of the West, and introduce Mr. Jameson Alphonse, again, another technology individual. He's a business analyst and accountant by profession. Most of his professional career has been in the telecom sector, and he's had a short stint in the manufacturing sector as well. He also provides consultations in accounting and business development. Now, outside of his commitments to the private sector, he has developed a passion for agriculture as a business, and I've engaged Jameson over the years in St. Lucia, and he's the founder and CEO of Green Havens Fresh Farms. Now, Green Havens Fresh Farm is an award-winning integrated farm. He started the farm in 2010 with the intention of modernizing his family's old farming practice by introducing greenhouse technology. The farm grows crops in a combination of aquaponics, greenhouse production, and open field production. The farm also offers agritourism tours and serves as a farm-to-table meal, diversifying the farm's income generally. This is I'm sure going to be another exciting presentation like the two that came before. With that, let me introduce and invite Jameson to do his presentation. Jameson, you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning to all. Thank you, Alistair, for Thank you, Alistair. Let me know if you could see my screen. If all can see my screen.
It's coming up. Yes, it's showing.
Great. Yeah, Alistair, thank you for the introduction. Like you said,
you may want to put it in full screen, please, so we can. Yeah. Okay, great. Go ahead. Sorry.
That was slow in coming there. Thank you for the introduction. I'm here to give a brief presentation about Green Haven Fresh Farm, mainly focusing on the aquaponics system. But other than aquaponics, Green Haven do a few more things. Like you like you suggest, like you rightfully suggest. Yeah, sure. So some other things we do at Greenhaven. Greenhaven is an integrated farm located in Bois-d'Enchozel. The farm consists of a 42,000-gallon vertical aquaponics system. We'll show you guys some photos of that. We crop, we have 10 square foot of greenhouse production where we grow crops in the soil in greenhouse. We mainly do lettuce and tomatoes in those areas. We also have 2 sliding nurseries where we sow our own seeds. We have 3 acres of open field production where we plant various crops, including, but not limited to cucumbers, cucurbits, watermelon, watermelon, pumpkin, cucumbers, whatnot. We do sweet potatoes, etc. We also have, on the farm, we have an 80,000-gallon rainwater harvesting tank. The tank is located underneath the aquaponics system. So basically, we harvest rainwater from all the greenhouses. So that sustains the farm for a full tank of water sustains us at least 3 months, which can take us for a drought period. But we also have a supportive irrigation system where we tap into an irrigation system from the government, which is 1.2 kilometers away, and we pump that water to my system during the extreme dry period. The farm also have an 8,000 kilowatts solar panel system, which basically power the pumps and also the farm. The solar panel was actually donated by Jeff Small Grant Program. I do and has done quite a bit of work with quite a bit of the agencies. IICA is one of the agencies who have supported me greatly. IICA supported me with the system and especially the procurement, also networking and technical training as well. Like Alistair mentioned, I've done some work with Alistair himself, with Brent, with quite a bit of the folks at IICA. On the farm, we also provide a farm-to-table meal, which is a product we sell to the cruise guests. So when the cruise guests come on island, they do come visit the farm, and we sell whatever.
I think Jameson dropped off for a bit. So let's see if we can get him back on. In the interim, while we are waiting Jameson to log back on, I want to encourage us, as I said, to begin putting our questions in the chat. And we'll be happy to take all those questions at the end of all the presentations. This first panel is we're gonna hear from the various entrepreneurs and the innovations that they are utilizing, whereas our second panel will comprise entities who can support the adoption of these practices. And you would have heard so far from all 3 presenters how they work with different players, whether it's COLEAD, FAO, IICA, CARDI, etc., to support the adoption of these climate-smart practices. For us at IICA, we have a climate change and sustainable production hemispheric program, and there's a strong focus on promoting climate resilient practices and ensuring climate smart practices are adopted by entrepreneurs. And as IICA, we'd be happy to continue working with persons to boost their production and incorporate these climate smart practices. I know COLEAD has a rich history as well with introducing and supporting the use of climate resilient technologies. So we are happy as entities to play a role in boosting food security here in the region. I see Jameson is not back on as yet, so maybe what we can do is we can take our next presenter, and then when Jameson comes back on, we can have him complete his presentation. So,
Alistair, sorry to interrupt. Jameson is connecting again through his phone, and we will share the presentation from our side.
Well, that's good. So maybe we can hold on a bit for him. But again, as I said, we are happy to work with you all. And we want to encourage you, please ask your questions, get in touch with us. And even if it is that you haven't grasped all the concepts, we invite you to go online and revisit these presentations. We have them recorded so you can go back and this whole exercise is to transfer technology and knowledge to stakeholders, whether it's this particular focus on climate resilient practices or any of the other topics that we would have addressed. So it's always online and you can go back and enhance your capacity. And again, I want to make a plea and indicate to you all and promote the upcoming Caribbean Week of Agriculture from the 7th to the 11th of October in the beautiful island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and actually in St. Vincent. So I want to encourage you, we are going to focus on climate change at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. So this activity is like a precursor to what we're going to see at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. So Jameson is back, so let me pass back to him to do his presentation. Jameson, you're muted, Jameson. You're muted. You're still muted, Jameson. We're not hearing you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I'm unmuted now. All right. Sorry about that earlier on. Some technical issues. Yep. So I was on the point speaking about the solar system on the farm that was funded by Jeff SGP program. Also, I highlighted many collaborations with IICA and many of the work the IICA staff and support they has given me. So you can move to the next slide. Yeah. Aquaponics. Aquaponics is basically the feature of the farm that basically highlighting, and just give a little rundown of what aquaponics is. Aquaponics is a sustainable method of farming that contains aquaculture, raising of fish, and hydroponics, raising of plants in water. It contains a symbiotic environment where fish provides nutrients for the plant and the plant roots filter the water for the fish. In the aquaponics system, fish and plants are cultivated together in a closed loop system. Basically, the water circulating transfer nutrients from one area of the system to another. Often it is a controlled environment, like in a greenhouse, like mine, which you'll see some photos in a bit. It's also, this method allows for efficient use of water and nutrients, making it more environmentally friendly approach to agriculture. So basically, in aquaponics, you save a lot of 90% of the water estimated because most of the water has been recirculated in the system. Aquaponics products are fully organic and have a longer shelf life, and actually they do taste better. The products from the farm are sold to premium markets for a premium price. So my premium markets are mainly the hotels, restaurant. I do supply the high-end restaurants and the hotels on the island, which actually pay a premium price for the product. There, as anything else, there are challenges in aquaponics. The greatest challenge with aquaponics is the setup. It is heavy capital intense and takes a high operating and maintenance cost, and it is not applicable to growing, which is not applicable to growing in this soil. So in this soil, our traditional conventional way, farmers just go and grow their crops, don't have all that intense cost. But to set up an aquaponics system, you do have that huge setup cost. The disadvantage as well in that is for aquaponics to be real successful, your business needs to be of a size scale that your sales can cover all your running expenses, as there are some quite big expenses to that. If you could change next slide, please. Yeah. So this is basically a picture of my system. Yeah, so that is the front view of the system. It's a vertical setup. towards the bottom, we have the fish tanks, and at the top, we have the grow beds. So there are 4 fish tanks at the bottom and 10 grow beds where actually grow plants and vegetables. When I first designed the system, theoretically, it's good on paper, but we had quite a bit of challenges growing plants between the beds because of lack of light. We did bring in some lights, and it still provided some challenges, which I never quite overcome because of, yet again, the capital intense of getting the proper lights and getting the proper setup to do that. So we continued growing plants at the top, but we maintained quite a bit of fish. So the system, we can grow up to 3,000 heads of lettuce per cycle and 12,000 pounds of fish annually. The waste from the system after cleaning it is applied to the soil during conventional. So the idea on the farm is nothing goes to waste. So when we clean the system, we take that water and we pump it into our greenhouse, and that will pretty much provide nutrients for the soil, or we pump it into our open field where that provides nutrients for the soil as well. If you can move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So this basically is an image of the system, the setup. So you could see on the left, well, that's me accessing the grow beds at the top using a ladder, and we do have some bridges in between. You could see the fish tank at the bottom with the water, and the plants are at the top. This is yet again me near a bed of fully grown lettuce. In the system, the plants lettuce grow much faster in aquaponics than in the soil. However, one of the challenges I found is that comparing the width of the plant in the soil is actually a little heavier than those grown in the aquaponics system. Yep. If you look on, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So there is an image of some of the fish harvested from the system. Those are tilapia. We grow a combination of the red and the gray tilapia, and those we use those to serve to our farm tours. So when our guests come, we serve them. So one of the things we did on the farm is diversify our income by creating some farm tours. So we have tourists from the cruise ship when on island come visit the farm. So and they experience whatever we grow. So whatever we serve is a farm to table meal. So those would be the fish we serve them. In some instances, we have mainly fish or chicken meal, but most persons prefer the fish meals. Yep. We go to the next slide. No, I think not. That's the last slide. But one other thing that was not featured on that presentation on the farm, we also have a little zoo. We have an area where we have a courtyard. We showcase some heritage, in terms of heritage stuff. We have a herbal garden. We have some plants, quite a bit of other attractions, which was not featured in that presentation, but all that culminating into presenting an agrotourism tour. So other than we focus on the challenges from agriculture, where on the farm we have some limitations, we diversify into making some monies from the farm by using agrotourism, where that supplements some of the developments on the farm. Thank you, Alistair.
Jameson, I want to thank you for managing the time, for being resilient. Although you had a drop-off, you were able to bounce back quite well, and that's why we want to talk about resilience, and it's critical for us to recognize your work in St. Lucia and the use of solar power. I think that's more and more becoming of interest to all the stakeholders, and I hope we'll get more questions on that for you. And also the water harvesting techniques. Maybe we can explore that a little bit more in the question and answer session. But I want to note your collaboration with the entities. and particularly your support, the support you receive from UNGF. And interestingly enough, we have UNGF on the panel coming up later on. I see Dr. Bynoe is also already on. And the focus on agritourism. I know that's, again, of growing interest to us in the region. And my predecessor, Mrs. Zina Harvey, was always an advocate for agritourism. So it's good to see that you've established a sound farm-to-table practice and offering meals to the tourists who come on the cruise ships. Really good use of the technology, good climate resilient effort, and we want to hear more later on in the question and answer period. Thank you, Jameson. I want to move on quickly to our final presenter on this panel. And we're going all the way west now. We're going across to Belize, and we'll hear from Mr. Christopher Nesbitt, who's already on. He's the founder and director of Maya Mountain Research Farm, Belize. And again, you would notice a trend. A lot of research among all these players that we highlighted, a lot of research in their practices. And Christopher lives at the Maya Mountain Research Farm in southern Belize with his wife, Selene Logan Nesbitt. The farm was previously a degraded citrus and cattle farm. However, over the years, they've transformed the landscape into a productive multi-strata agroforestry system with a focus on food security, degraded land repair, and carbon drawdown. Now, together, Christopher and his wife manage roughly 500 species of plants and also raise poultry, rabbits, and sheep. In 2019, the farm won the Commonwealth Secretary General's Innovations in Sustainable Development Award under the Prosperity category. So we're going to shift a bit. We're going to hear some more innovative practices. And again, ultimately, we want to see how these technologies and innovations can boost our climate resilience. With that, let me invite Christopher to do his presentation. He has 10 minutes. And please, colleagues, again, take your questions, put them in the chat, and we'll address them at the end. Christopher?
Good morning. So good morning. My name is Christopher Nesbitt. I live in southern Belize with my wife. We manage the Maya Mountain Research Farm upriver from the community of San Pedro, Colombia. We lack a road and we lack grid. Next slide, please. And thank you for having me, by the way. So basically what we're looking at is that in the world, there are roughly 900 million to 1.1 billion acres of degraded agricultural landscapes. Most of these landscapes cannot be returned back to the processes and or practices that damage them. And so we're looking at ways to utilize these landscapes. This aligns along with the pressing need to draw down atmospheric carbon. And so basically we're looking at using degraded landscapes to create multi-strata agroforestry systems that will provide a bunch of yields and services, which we'll talk about a little later. The first step, we're basically managing this we're managing succession like Aikido. Instead of taking an agricultural model and trying to create a static condition of a single crop and a single window of production, what we're doing is we're basically managing succession very similar to successional forest patterns that we see here in the wild, where we have a list of pioneer species like banana, cassava, pigeon pea, pineapple, chai. You can see them on the left side of the screen. Each one of those provides a yield in terms of food or something that we can sell or something that we can feed to the animals or green manure. But they also provide ecosystem services, which are very important in landscapes, which is especially soil retention, soil moisture retention, improving the soil structure, providing quick yield. All of this pioneer species provide a yield within 2 years. And also fixing nitrogen. Next slide, please. So basically the end goal of what we're looking for is creating something that has an analog structure to primary habitat, and whereby we have a canopy layer, an emergent layer, various sub-canopy layers, a terrestrial layer. Elements in this system include staple tree crops, which we'll talk about later, timber trees, tree legumes, and sub-canopy species. Livestock are, if not integrated directly into this part of the farm, This part of the farm provides yields in terms of fodder for livestock. Again, ecosystem services, very important. Integrated landscapes, soil retention, soil moisture retention. We create habitat. We're drawing down carbon. These landscapes can function as biological corridors between protected areas or buffer zones between cultivated areas and protected areas. Again, yields include starch, protein, oils, fodder, fiber, fuel, marketable crops, medicinal crops, and timber. Next slide, please. Many of the crops that we grow are perennial staple crops. These are things like tubers, bananas, various tree crops, and subcanopy crops that function in a multi-strata agroforestry system. And they are selected specifically because they have very favorable energy return on energy invested ratios. Once established, it's basically like a biological flywheel. It's just producing food and it takes very little energy to maintain the mature parts of the farm. It's why the pioneer species are so important, because in the beginning, you're spending a lot of energy, but you need to get a harvest. I've listed on the left breadnut, breadfruit, jackfruit, ramon nut, peach, palm, coconut, and avocado. Those are some of those, some of the crops that we consider tropical staple trees, but they're very important ones here. And they can significantly outproduce grain crops in terms of yield per acre, particularly when you consider how much energy it takes to maintain grain crops. Uses are food, again, fodder for animals, biogas fodder, because we do biogas, and marketable crops. Next slide, please. High-value agroforestry species include cacao. In the 1990s and early 2000s, I managed something called the Toledo Cacao Growers Association, which was centralized purchasing for smallholders throughout the southern Belize, and exportation to the United Kingdom to a company called Green and Blacks. It was the first fair trade and organic certified producer group. This is one of the ways we call it an anchor crop that exists underneath the canopy of your multi-strata agroforestry system and provides an economic yield. Next slide, please. Vanilla. Vanilla is one of the important crops. Like cacao, vanilla is native and endemic to Toledo District, the southern part of Belize. And we grow a lot of vanilla. And it's one of our, while we manage about 500 species of plants, we focus on about 12 species of plants that we sell. There are many species of medicinal plants which we don't really use, but they're there as part of the biodiversity. Next slide, please. Another multi-strata agroforestry system, sort of ground level crop, is turmeric. And this is some of the turmeric that we produce. We sold lots and lots of turmeric. We also sell ginger, which grow in rhizomes and go dormant in our dry season, crop up in the rainy season. And these are very high value. And again, the market for these is bigger than the yield is in Toledo District. That's my wife holding our puppy, who is now a big dog. Next slide, please. See, okay, I'm doing good for time. I always run out of time on these things, so I'll relax a little bit. This is Marlon Sutherland. Marlon lived with us for a while. He's in Belize City, and he came down. He and I walked around, and we collected all that food in about 45 minutes within 100 yards of the farm. We off camera, which you can't see, we have 2 buckets full of breadnut, the Artocarpus comansi, also called seeded breadfruit, which is a very potentially important and underutilized tropical staple tree with very high yields. And what we're talking about, again, goes back to the energy returned on energy invested of the farm. The farm produces, the mature parts of the farm produce lots and lots and lots of food, and doesn't take a lot of energy to maintain that part of the farm. The younger parts of the farm take lots of energy, but we do get significant yields from that. You can go to the last slide. So this is my saying thank you at the end, but this is a drone footage of the farm. When we talk about analog forestry, we talk about the arboreal architecture of the farm is very similar in terms of structure to primary habitat. Most of the farm that you're looking there, we've been doing this since the late 1980s. So a lot of the trees that you see there are over 30 years old. Because of the way the farm functions, we have multiple yields that come out of it: food, fiber, fodder, marketable crops, medicinal crops, and also multiple services, the ecosystem services that are often lacking in agricultural landscapes, particularly, again, soil and soil moisture retention, habitat creation, and the big one everybody's talking about now is carbon sequestration. These farms are inherently anti-fragile because we have multiple crops to depend on. For example, this last year we had a very significant drought followed by fire. There were escape fires all around us. When I managed Toledo cacao growers in the 1990s and 2000s, every year 1 or 2 farms would get burned by fire, destroyed by fire. Some years none would. This year, over 400 farms in Toledo district were either damaged or erased by escaped agricultural fires. What we have found, since this is the second fire that we've had, is that the landscape is less susceptible to fire in a mature multi-strata agroforestry system. So this is basically doable by anyone. The major element needed is time. When I started this, when I was very young, I was 22 when I started farming, and I didn't actually start the work until I was 25. I spent the first 3 years observing. This was done mostly with sweat equity, without any capital, and so it's basically labor, managing succession, and the end result is what you see. And I think that concludes my presentation because I've run out of time.
Christopher, I want to thank you for the excellent time management, and I hope that we'll have the opportunity to ask you questions at the end. And for me, I'm blown away by the various species of crops and the display of fruits that you highlighted. It's mind-blowing indeed, and a wonderful example of carbon sequestration and general carbon drawdown, and that whole focus on rebuilding the land and the sustainable development practices. I think it's interesting for us to note, and I hope that we can learn from what you've done. And I invite the audience to ask you more questions on the process. You did such a good work with the time. I'm hoping we can hear you speak a little more on the enterprise. So again, we want to thank all the presenters in this first panel for the work that they are doing and the incorporation of climate resilient technology and innovations. I believe it augurs well for sustainable production in the region and to boost our efforts at food security, and particularly in light of the 25 by 25 initiative and the mandate by the various governments in the region. So with that said, again, thank you. We want to move on quickly to the second panel. And this is the part that's critical for us as well. While we hear the technologies and innovations that are being incorporated by the entrepreneurs, for a lot of us, how do we do this? How do we get the resources? Christopher said a lot of it on his part was sweat equity. But for a lot of us, we may not be able to have the patience and do it over time, but we need help now. We need the knowledge. We need the technology now. We heard from Jameson, from Christina. We also heard from Mr. Simmons, how they've collaborated various entities to get from one place to the next. We really want to hear from some of these entities now, how we can tap into their resources, tap into the information pool that they have to allow us to do that. So I want to say, again, as I highlighted before, IICA has an agricultural climate action and sustainability hemispheric program with a whole focus on sharing information and supporting IICA member states and stakeholders generally to adopt climate resilient practices. And the fact that we partnered with COLEAD, that has a wealth of knowledge in the area of climate resilience and climate smart practices, we really hope that we can continue to support stakeholders in their efforts at becoming a little more climate resilient. But with that said, let me invite two key entities to do presentations that allow us to really move closer towards that part of sustainability. With that, let me invite Mr. Carlinton Burrell, who is the CEO of the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center. Mr. Burrell is in fact in China, and he's up supporting us, and we're appreciative of him being here. And he has been tackling climate change challenges in the region through clean tech innovation by fostering new business ventures. As the CEO of the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center, he supports the development of an ecosystem that nurtures innovative, growth-oriented enterprises and assists them in securing the necessary capital for their ventures. That's something we always want to hear, so we're looking forward to this. And Carlinton has played a key role in building regional capacity to support clean tech startups and early-stage companies, contributing significantly to the rise of new green industries in the region. A recognized expert in climate innovation and business development in the region, Carlinton collaborates with various government entities, private sector players, and quasi-state institutions to establish programs and build capacity for greater sustainability in the region. Carlinton is a certified project management professional with PMP qualifications and holds a master's degree in computer-based management information systems, as well as a double major Bachelor of Science degree in computer science and electronics, all from the University of the West Indies. Again, we are seeing a trend, technology, science, engineering with agriculture. So we want to welcome Carlinton to deliver his 10-minute presentation. And again, this is going to be insightful. Let's take notes because we want to tap into these resources and facilities. Carlinton, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sir Alistair. Truly appreciate it. And good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. All right, I go right into it. So how we got started, so the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center, CCIC for short, was established in February 2014 under the Royal Bank's Entrepreneurship Program for Innovation in the Caribbean, EPIC, which is a part of the Bank's Climate Technology Program at the time. The center was implemented by a consortium, which included the Scientific Research Council, that is based in Jamaica, and the Caribbean Industrial Research Institute, which is based in Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah, it goes to show where we are a regional institution. It was originally funded by the government of Canada for 4 years that ended in 2018. And following 2018, we became a registered legal entity that operated as a not-for-profit entity in the Caribbean. Our goals. The CCIC aims to drive climate resilience and sustainable economic growth by supporting the development of innovative, climate-focused technologies and businesses across the region. We have 4 major goals, really. So the first goal is to stimulate the development and implementation of clean tech adaptation solutions through collaborative work, connect entrepreneurs with critical funding, technical assistance, and market opportunities to develop and scale their climate solutions. And the scale there is very important. To promote the development and adoption of climate resilient technologies and practices across key sectors of the economy. And that is very important that we look at the different sectors of the economy that we need to focus on. Encourage collaboration between governments, private sector, NGOs, and academic institutions across the Caribbean to tackle shared climate challenges. Okay, what are some of the challenges that we really face in the Caribbean that is severely impacting us? The climate change exacerbates economic vulnerabilities and disrupts social stability in Caribbean communities through increased natural disasters and damage to key industries like tourism and agriculture. And, you know, those are the 2 sectors that are really badly impacted when we have hurricanes and other natural disasters. Now, seaweed influx, particularly from sargassum, is one of those things that has been affecting various islands at a particular time of the year. And this affects a major and a critical industry, which is tourism. tourism is one of the largest contributors to GDP. And this, not just tourism, but it affects marine life, it affects communities, it affects several other areas. And so if we want to look at the impact that sargassum have on the economy. Flooding, of course, is multi-sectorial. It affects not just the communities, but the socio-economic impact as well is large because it affects persons or people's livelihood. And so we want to look at the impact that flooding have on the economy, infrastructural damages. Again, one of those that is multi-sectorial, and the impact that it can have on the economy. And finally, we want to look at agricultural damages. So overall, these are some of just want to look at 4 critical natural disasters that really affects us and how it impacts our socio-economic sector. Entrepreneurs with sargassum solutions. So here we have Davian Morrison and Joshua Fort. Davian is based in Jamaica. Joshua Fort is based in Barbados. Davian Integral Recycles and Joshua Red Diamond. Davian has developed what we call a briquettes using this sargassum. So which makes burning fuel way more cleaner and more efficient, is cheaper, friendlier to the environment. On the other side, we have Joshua Fort in Barbados that has commercialized the organic and soil treatment of crop protection that made primarily from the organic environmental hazards such as the sargassum seaweeds. So we have several entrepreneurs that are working assiduously to alleviate the challenges that we faced yearly with the sargassum, the influx of the sargassum at our shores. Entrepreneurs in water management and wastewater solutions. We have Yakini Wallen Bryan from Jamaica and Leon Spence again from Jamaica. So Yakini Wallen Pre-Labs, they have a line of device that is centered around remote monitoring. So these 2 entrepreneurs, I think they even the partnership as we speak. They have been working together over the years. They have controlled the automation of assets and environment to owners and business place and other public and private entities. They have saved millions of dollars because of the solutions that they have implemented over the years. In infrastructure and innovation and renewable energy, we have Tracy and Hyman of Artel and Mandy Mullins, Valhere Solution. Tracy developed what we call an AI solution that is data-driven decision-making technology for disaster planners, engineers, developers, telecom providers, and insurance companies. It reduced damage and casualties from disasters, for sustainable development and community resilience. While Valhere Solutions, Mandy Mullins, they partnered or have several alliances with other solar entities that provide affordable, hassle-free energy solution to homeowners and business leaders across the different sectors, of course, to increase sustainable livelihood. So these entrepreneurs are really working to alleviate the impact of climate change on the environment right across the Caribbean. On climate smart agriculture and agribusiness, we have Elijah James from Antigua and Barbuda, Tonian Williams from Jamaica, and Ansel Bagwandine from Trinidad and Tobago. Elijah developed a local app that really bridges the gap between consumers and producers back in the, I think about 2014, 2016, thereabout. But what we realized that Elijah was able to use that app to pivot during COVID, because what it did, it provided information to critical sectors and different aspects of the economy. So they were able to use this to provide critical information about medical centers, protocols passed down by the government and how to operate during COVID. So we see that our entrepreneurs are really making impactful changes in their different fields and different sector. Tony and Williams develop a eco-smart agriculture and agri-tech solution where she is processing strawberries here in Jamaica. Ansel Bagwandine has developed a solar panic solution that is now scaling across several schools there in Trinidad and Tobago in the agricultural sector. And so we decided we have been supporting entrepreneurs in various areas. These are some of our programs. We have the Climate Launchpad program, the DBJ Ignite programs, which provide up to $7 million to entrepreneurs that are commercialized in Jamaica, and $3 million for ideas that are bankable. We have a clean tech idea generations that we run up right across the Caribbean. We have the Caribbean Green Tech Solutions that we have executed across 15 different countries in the Caribbean. We have business incubation and business acceleration program that we have partnered with several institutions, not just in the region, but in Latin America and Europe, to help our entrepreneurs to tap into funding, technical assistance, and mentorship. For our future outlook, 2024-2025, we're looking to strengthen our partnership with other accelerator programs in Europe and Latin America. Of course, and next year, we're going to relaunch our Scale It Accelerator program. 2026, we're going to look to reestablish our Caribbean-based partners to host 3 hub train-the-trainer program to ensure that there's knowledge transfer and sustainability in the region. Thank you for having me today. Hope you heard me. And that
yes, I had a little difficulty. Shifting back here. Me laughing, Carlinton. Wonderful presentation. And for me, I'm happy to see that there are persons from across the region benefiting from the support by your entity. And in particular, the issue of sargassum, that's the one that stands out to me because it impacts the tourism sector so significantly. But again, we feel that there are innovations that can be incorporated to take advantage of this scourge and turn it into opportunity. It's a crisis, but we can use the technology to convert it into an opportunity. So I'm really excited about the work you all are doing and inviting again the audience. Let's get some questions. Let's find out more how we can tap into the opportunities. I'm glad your screen is still up, Carlinton, because I want us to note the contact information, how we can get in touch with the Caribbean Climate Innovation Center in Carlinton generally. So please take note of that contact information. So again, thank you for managing the time as well. With that, let me introduce our next presenter, who is Dr. David Bynoe. And again, I'm happy to be able to identify these persons that we are familiar with and who worked with us. You would have heard Jameson say that he would have benefited significantly from the support of UNDP. So it's good that we have a connection, that these presenters are showing how they've collaborated with entities, and we have the entities here as well to show how we as an audience can benefit from the work that they are doing. So let me not delay. David Bynoe, Dr. David Bynoe is an agronomist, economist, and international sustainable development specialist. He currently works as the national coordinator of the Global Environment Facility Small Grants Program, SGP, at the United Nations Development Program, multi-country office for Barbados and the OECS. As the national coordinator in the organization, since 2013, he is mainly responsible for effective management of the SGP local team, the overall program, and its portfolio of projects. Previously, Dr. Bynoe worked for 7 years as an agronomist with the Ministry of Agriculture here in Barbados. He was awarded for his significant impact on the agricultural sector. In that capacity, he, in fact, developed and managed the National Organic Research and Development Program and provided environmental economic advice to various government agencies and international organizations. Dr. Bynoe is a trained environmental economist with a master's in environmental economics and environmental management from the University of York in the UK. He pursued this master's as a Commonwealth Scholar to the UK after first completing his first degree in agricultural science from UE in Trinidad and Tobago, and he concluded his PhD with the University of Twente in the Netherlands, focusing on multi-level governance, climate change adaptation, and agri-environmental stewardship within small island development states. Now, utilizing these multidisciplinary skills, he served on the Barbados Green Economy National Steering Committee, providing agricultural and environmental economic guidance. David currently sits on the National Climate Change Committee, and he lectures at the University of the West Indies on resource and environmental economics, and he's also an adjunct professor of sustainable development at McGill University. In addition, Dr. Bynoe served as a member of United Nations Environmental Program Scientific and Expert Review Team, which generally assesses emerging issues impacting small island development states. Dr. Bynoe has founded, led, and served on the board of many national and international charitable organizations. This is a gentleman with a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we are happy to have him present at this forum. So with that said, let me invite Dr. Bynoe to deliver his 10-minute presentation. Again, colleagues, please make note of the various issues that you're hearing so that we can engage the presenters following the panel discussions. Let me not delay any further. Dr. Bynoe, please deliver your presentation, and thank you for joining us.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You have been doing an excellent job thus far. These presentations have been on point, and I'm really happy that I could be a part of this and join to hear some of these excellent presentations. Now, when it comes to climate resilient agriculture, I'm a big advocate for that, and I have a strong passion for it. With reference to the entrepreneurs who we see here and persons who are listening in, joining this session, I think it's going to be very much of utility for you, because sometimes we hear some things are being done, but we may lack the ability to get that point even though we have the vision. I always say there are three main things you need to implement any project or idea properly. You need the motivation, and we can see that we have very motivated people here, but we also need something called cognition, or the knowledge, the awareness, the technical capacity. And many times within the Caribbean, we have the motivation, we have the cognition, that technical knowledge, that ability, but we lack the resources, which is power. We lack the resources to implement. And therefore, this morning, I'm going to focus my presentation on access to those resources that you need to pursue climate resilient agriculture. And as you heard earlier, for years, the Just Small Grants program implemented by UNDP has been providing financing in this area in the form of grants. And that's an area we're pretty proud of. If you look at the background there, you're going to see an area that used to be an old quarry in Barbados. Now it's a food forest. We would have provided some initial funds to the Caribbean Permaculture Research Institute to start doing permaculture in this area, supported, of course, by the owner and the rest of his team. And within a very short period of time, that area would have been completely restored. The soil organic matter would have been replaced. You have places where there was just sand, now you have humus, you have organic matter there, you have nutrients, and any type of crop you can place there, from pineapples, banana, you name it. You can put any crop there and it's growing pretty well because of the climate resilient systems put in place. And we have countless things we can speak to you about in terms of algus organics. I remember when Johanna first came to me, when they had the first symposium on sargassum seaweed, when it became a big crisis, and we had this symposium, and he was like, I have this great idea with converting sargassum seaweed to fertilizer, but I just can't get the finance. I said, no worry. I gave him my email. I said, I'm going to put you in contact with our national coordinator on the ground in St. Lucia, and I'm going to ensure you get the financing for this. Fast forward, he won a Smithsonian Award. He would have provided and created thousands of jobs. He continues to do well. We have many examples straight throughout the Caribbean. In Cuba, we had large areas that were deserts that we were able to return to habitable lands and lands that you can use for agriculture. In Belize, we have several climate smart examples that we can point to. Even back to St. Lucia, with respect to aquaculture, that is not the only example. We have other examples there dealing with persons with disabilities. In Barbados, we have an aquaculture farm, fully climate smart, runs on renewable energy, using prototype printing. The list goes on. So I can tell you so many examples where climate smart agriculture is something that we supported to the point of success. But this morning, my main role is to tell you about how you can access funding through us and through some of our partners. So I'll move on from there, and I'll give you a quick overview of the Small Grants Program, just in case you haven't heard about us. We were established in 1992, the year where you had most of the large global conventions. And our main role is to provide, address global problems, environmental problems, that is, at the community level. So you have many other UN programs that they provide solutions at the national, regional, and global level. But we come down to the community level and we provide the opportunities for communities to create solutions to their own problems. Our main objectives are to achieve environmental sustainability, alleviate and reduce poverty, and also develop capacity among our grantee partners. And no, I say partners because that's how we see it. We see our grantees as partners. We offer financial and technical support to civil society organizations for community-driven projects that contribute to the global environmental priorities. Now, you may say I'm an entrepreneur, not a CSO. Now, this is where I want to make you think outside the box, right? So we provide this funding to umbrella organizations that have entrepreneurs that are also under them. So if you're a member of the Small Business Association, you're a member of the Agricultural Association, whether it be in Barbados and Jamaica. Once you're a member of an association that falls within your particular sphere of entrepreneurship, you can access the grant through them, and then they will be able to come forward with the grant. They can identify you as the beneficiary. But in addition to that, I always encourage all grantee partners, or all entrepreneurs, I should say, that you should have a charitable arm, because you are taking risk, and often one bad decision can lead to the collapse of your entire business. In the US, there's significant grant funding available for entrepreneurship, much less so in the Caribbean. You're going to see as I discuss this. So therefore, you need to have a not-for-profit organization that you can approach organizations like us that would provide grants to civil society. We're willing to take a risk with you. We're willing to, even if your project fails, help you to make sure the next attempt is successful. But you are not able to go to a bank and then lose 100,000 or 200,000, because that may be the end of you and your family in terms of things that you have to put in place. So I'm encouraging you, if possible, every entrepreneur should have a charitable arm, and that's where you can take some risks. That's where you can also give back at the same time, and that allows you to access much more funding than if you're just privately incorporated. Now, in terms of our approach, we have a three-pronged approach. We look at the environmental side of things, of course, but we also look at poverty reduction and community empowerment. And we leverage the shift towards environmental sustainable livelihood. So every project that we do has to have a sustainable livelihood component. You may even say an entrepreneurship component within that, and increase education and awareness on environmental issues. This gives you an idea of the areas in which we fund. We generally fund within these areas: climate change, adaptation, land degradation, biodiversity conservation, persistent organic pollutants or harmful waste and chemicals. We also provide funding on the international waters. And as you can see, climate change plays a significant role when you look at both climate change adaptation and climate change mitigation. Now, there are cross-cutting issues that we address. So if you're coming to us for project funding, you need to look and say, well, like, what cross-cutting issues can I address? Am I approaching from a youth perspective? Can I ensure that there's gender equality there? Women's empowerment, youth empowerment. Is it a case where we have Indigenous people in the country and that's an opportunity there for me to work with them, through them? You know, so we look at special focus areas that would also give your project an edge. If you don't have these, but you're still within the focal areas, you're still fine. Now, grant financing. As I said earlier, I encourage you to do so because this is an opportunity that you may not have within the context of traditional funding, where you have to go to a bank. Funding possibilities, of course, you have the Just Small Grants program, but you also have the Telefoods program through the Food and Agriculture Organization. They have a Telefoods that many people may not be aware of. Normally, you would have to speak to your Ministry of Agriculture, let them know about the initiative that you're doing, and they then would liaise with FAO, and that's the opportunity in which you can get funding there. Also within UNDP, before I get to IDB, we have the labs in Barbados. We have the Blue Labs, which looks at funding throughout the region, but we've gone further than just looking at the blue economy to looking at the green and the orange economy. So that's another opportunity for funding. And within our labs, UNDP labs, we focus not only on civil society, but also providing funding directly to entrepreneurs. Several of the persons who would have been mentioned here this morning, they also would have been able to access some funding from our labs. Now, this Complete Caribbean, strong partner, and I love partnership. One of the reasons why I'm here this morning because our partner IICA called me and said, oh, hey, we need your assistance with this, and no thinking about it, just jump right in, because we have strong partnerships, and IDB is one of our strong partners via Complete Caribbean, and they're doing an excellent job in the region providing funding to entrepreneurs. We also have the Canadian Fund for Local Initiatives. Make sure you check that out. New Zealand High Commission is particularly, and the Australian High Commission is particularly keen on providing funding in SIDS as it relates to climate change adaptation. Another opportunity there. Contact your respective governments, because many times within the Ministry of Agriculture, there is a grant funding opportunity that the average farmer may not be aware of, and you need to have that liaison to see what is there, also in terms of rebates that you can get back. But I want to let you think outside the box and understand that we're in an era where you have something called crowdfunding, Kickstarter, for example. So you don't have to look at traditional means of grant funding. You can look at some non-traditional options as well. Then there's microfinance. This is something that we promote. In fact, SGP would have piloted microfinancing within Barbados, within the region, and globally, whereby we provided seed financing to some organizations to then provide financing to NGOs and entrepreneurs. So this is an opportunity. You need to look at this. You may not be able to get a large quantity of funding, but you can get microfinance and you can go from there. Now, within the context of microfinancing, you must note, though, that there's a deficiency within the region, and many of the countries within our region have very limited access to microfinance. And again, speaking to the partners present, this is an opportunity for us to look at increasing access to microfinance within the region. As you can see here, access to credit as a major constraint is, for Suriname, for Barbados, Antigua, Jamaica, even up to Belize, 70% of the person says, yes, this is a major constraint. So this is an area which we have to seek to address. Then there's the local financing, where you're very familiar with, so I don't need to waste any time on that, and which via the commercial banks, the credit unions, and also the government loan facilities. Equity financing is something I want to bring to your attention. Again, my role here is not only to tell you about what we have to offer, but also to give you opportunities that you may not be thinking about. Often we think when we're doing a business that we only have to take debt or we have to take grants, but the equity financing is a real possibility. I remember more than 15 years ago when I started a farm of 10 acres, I was able to get an equity investor, and he invested well over $100,000 in that. And this is an opportunity here that we often overlook. Equity, you can look at private equity as a source, or you can look at venture capital if you're a very early stage entrepreneur, right? And then, of course, when you're looking at these, you have the angel investors, you have the high net worth individuals, you have venture capitalists, and you also have private equity. You're looking at larger enterprises. And several of our granting partners were able to raise some equity from persons who would be interested in scaling what they're doing already. So think of this as an opportunity, especially for persons who are either early starting as a venture, or those persons who have a developed product like what we heard earlier that can be scaled via private equity. So some key recommendations like those, we have very limited time. I'm aware of that. I would say that climate resilient agricultural businesses should explore the full range of financing opportunities, and that's what I tried to push home here this morning. The most appropriate financing modality should be selected based on the capacity and the stage of business. Often we may not recognize, but there's several opportunities there, and I think the Ministries of Agriculture should be encouraged to compile a list of those opportunities that are currently available for active financing options. And this is country specific and the means in which you can access them. In cases where this is not done, then we may have to put some pressure on some other organizations like FAO and IICA, or even ourselves, to give you this information in an area that's easily accessible. Government should consider the establishment of a donor capitalized low interest revolving fund to address the specific needs with reference to climate resilient agriculture. Thank you very much. I really look forward to the question section because there's so much we can explore. Thank you, and God bless.
Dr. Bynoe, I want to thank you for that excellent delivery, and of course for managing the time. It gives us some minutes to do some questions and answers. And it's
Perfect.
interesting to hear all these facilities being offered by you and Jeff. Again, as I said, Jameson would have highlighted them. And there are different facilities, the grant funding that you identified, and a number of entities that you all are collaborating with, and of course, the microfinancing opportunities. So I think we're excited to hear this, and I want to invite persons to tap into, as you said, the different facilities across the region, the different Jeff SGP programs across the various countries. I think it augurs well for us to find solutions or find sources that allow us to adopt the technologies that we've heard from the first panel. So with that said, thank you again, Dr. Bynoe. We want to move into the question and answer period. We have about 10 minutes, and then we want to close. So I want to present some questions to the various presenters, and we can quickly address them and then move on to the closing. So a general question for all the participants: is there any mechanisms being used presently to share your data with other countries? And if so, where can this data be found? Because we recognize we have a dearth of information, data challenges are there in the region. So can you please tell us any mechanism that you're using to share your data with other countries and where it can be found? So let me start with the panelists from the first session: Christina, Jameson, Christopher, and Mr. Simmons.
All right, so I guess I can go first. In terms of this research that I've recently completed, I am still going through the process of possibly presenting that research information and also having it published. So currently it's still in the works in terms of the research that I would have done with the coconut material, and then also with the combination of the manure and biochar and so on. So hopefully before the end of the year, that information will be published and shared with a wider audience. And that's with in collaboration with Simmons at the University of the West Indies here in Barbados.
Thank you, Christina. Can we move on to Carlinton? No, sorry, not Carlinton. I apologize there. To probably Jameson or Christopher, and then we can go to Mr. Williams. So Simmons, sorry.
I can speak for that. In Belize, when social media arrived in Belize, particularly Facebook, it sort of exploded, and Facebook functions as a really great way for the lateral movement of information, including politics and but sharing information through that. We've published a few articles on some of what we're doing. Some of them are on Medium, some are published on the Permaculture Research Institute's webpage. So the internet and particularly social media function very well for the lateral movement of information. But I don't know, they used to have, can't remember the name of the organization, and out of the Netherlands that used to ship out pamphlets and books and whatnot. And as PDFs and internet digital technology took over, that disappeared. The company, CTA it was called. When CTA went down, no longer distributed information in print, they created a library of everything that they'd ever shared in print to digital. So most of the information that we have has moved laterally through either social media or on the internet.
Thank you for that, Christopher. Jameson and Itajah, can you tell us quickly?
With reference to my data, I don't have no formal site of sharing that information. I guess that's something I can collaborate with agencies like IICA, or any agency that can collaborate that information to share. However, I do have the only form of social, internet online coverage I have is a Facebook page. You could see, it's more pertinent to the agritourism part of the farm, but you could find some of my information there. You can DM me and I can provide that information as well. And my Facebook page is Greenhaven SLU.
Thank you, Mr. Alphonse. Mr. Simmons?
Alistair, Mr. Simmons just informed us in the chat that it's too loud in his background to...
Okay. Thank you for that, Axel. Maybe we can move on to David and to Carlinton. Any comments from you all?
I missed the question there, Alistair.
The question is really, are there any mechanisms being used presently to share your data with other countries? And if so, where can this data be found? It's more for the entrepreneurs, but I don't know if you have any comments on that.
I do actually. Yeah. So recently we executed a project with the IDB and we did a complete revamp of our website, which is the CIC.org. So we actually have a data portal there that we're actually collecting data from various institutions to help entrepreneurs, because we realize that sometimes finding critical data for trend analysis and for research is sometimes difficult to get your hands on. So we actually have a data portal there that we are now developing. So entrepreneurs can actually go there. Persons can actually go there to see what's it like at the moment. But yes, we do have a data portal on our platform.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Bynoe?
Thank you. Also, I make a contribution there. SGP, we have a global website at sgp.undp.org, sgp.undp.org, and we have a global database there. Within that global database, you can access any of our projects from 1992 until now. And you will be able to access some of the project information that may be relevant to what you're attempting to do, or if there's a particular method or technique that we would use in a project and you want to improve upon it or use it as a baseline, you can access some of that information using the database, or the database would have the contact person for that particular project, which means that you can reach out directly to the source of the information and get it from them. So it's an excellent tool for networking. It's an excellent tool to get some baseline information. It's also an excellent tool if you're doing a new project and you want to get an idea of what would have been done before, how can you do it different, or how can you improve upon what has already been done.
Thank you for that. I'll move on to specific questions. And I will not be able to address all the questions, but where we don't, we will address them to the presenter and then email responses to all the audience today. Quickly to Christina. Christina, can you tell us, will tilling the soil affect the soil life and cause erosion? Also, how do you use coir to control weeds? Just want to ask you those two questions quickly, and then we'll move on.
Okay, can you repeat the second question again?
How do you use, I think it's coir to control weeds? C-O-I-R?
Okay, so I believe that's referring to the coconut coir. Okay, so for the first question, yes, repeated alteration of the soil, whether by tractor equipment, does alter the health of the soil. In my case, I try to restrict it to every 2 years, hence the use of the mulch and so on to help retain the soil structure, and mainly if there's any organic material added, it would be added to a few inches of the first layer of the soil. And any major earthworks would be done with, like, if it's absolutely necessary to raise beds, because that's something that's done here in Barbados because of the clay content of the soil. Our beds tend to be a lot higher than, say, farms in the States and stuff like that. I see somebody said here, especially on slope lands as well too. So I try to minimize the amount of heavy equipment that has to go onto the property, hence the use of the mulch material to help reduce the impact of the rain droplets and excess water from eroding the soil, and also to retain the soil moisture into the soil. The second part really, right, but I did reference the coconut coir as well. So that has aided in the water retention as well. I did the experiment with both the shredded coconut coir as well as the one that was ground. So I've had varying results on the two. One seemed to work out a bit more than others in terms of suppressing the weeds. So I had extended that experiment to see with the one that worked a bit better. I mixed it with the manure and stuff to see how we can assist with the additional health and nutrients available in the soil for the crops as well.
Thank you for that, Christina. If we have more time, we'll come back to you again. But okay. I want to move on to Mr. Simmons. And can you tell us what are the chemicals used to spray with the drone? And also, is there any organic way to spray instead of chemically infused insecticide?
What we use mainly power pots, and we try and look for stuff that does that a long lifespan within the soil. So we use more contact herbicide. So presently, we don't have an organic weeds. If someone has a way of doing that, I'm interested in learning that method so that I can begin to implement that myself.
It's a bit difficult to hear you, so I'll just pose two more questions and ask you if you can respond in the chat. Persons are interested in knowing the cost or the feasibility of using the spraying drone that you have in your operation. And if it is that you can tell them how to access the peppers from Trinidad. So maybe you can put that in the chat first. We would really appreciate that. So I want to move on to Jameson. Thank you for that, Mr. Simmons. Moving on to Jameson. Jameson, the grow beds from the aquaponics system, is it a deep water system? And what variety of lettuce and spacing are you incorporating?
Yes, it is a deep water culture. The spacing varies. I've tried many different species. For example, when they plant at the infant stage seedling, I have the plants close to each other, and then whilst they grow, I spread them out through two other spaces. So the largest space would be 10 inches away. I've done the 1 foot apart, 12 inches away, but I realize with the 10 inches, it forces the plant to close up and be more bulky.
Quickly, besides the fish, what additional chemicals do you need to add to the system for the plants to grow?
I've used chelated iron to supplement my iron, but mainly once the system is fully cycled, and quality of the feed is good, you don't need to add nothing else to the system. It pretty much feeds itself.
Excellent. I want to move on now to Christopher. Christopher, can you tell us how do you manage water on your farm, on the forest? Oh, I think you answered that. Okay, so we move on to another question. What is the purpose of the Pride of Barbados plant, and how do you protect your crops from pests?
So basically, we just to answer fully the water one, we manage the landscape through combination of mechanical and botanical interventions in the landscape. We do swales. We use a lot of biochar. We make biochar from crop waste, particularly coconut husks and dried cacao pods. And by using inoculated biochar, we create healthy fungal communities in the soil, and that helps to retain soil moisture. We've had very good luck with that. In terms of pests, we basically have a grow it if it's strong enough to survive. We don't buy any inputs. We don't use any synthetic inputs. Sometimes we can make a preparation using the leaves of the the Madre de Cacao Gliricidia leaves, and that will slow pests. But mostly we don't try to fight pests. We just work with what works. So we're more focused on staple crops and tropical trees, which are again not fragile, anti-fragile to pests, and because of the high degree of biological diversity, we don't have a tableau where any single pest can take over because we have many different species. And by creating multiple species, you create habitat for predator-prey guilds to keep those under some form of control.
Thank you very much, Christopher. That's basically it for the questions from the first panelist, and I didn't see any questions for the second panel. Most persons were quite interested and excited by the quality of the presentations by the support entities. So I invite you all to go to their websites and get more information from what Carlinton would have shared, and as well as Dr. David Bynoe. So we look forward to you all accessing that information. Again, a special thank you to the entrepreneurs as well as the support entities for giving up their time today. We appreciate the information shared, and we look forward to us communicating and networking more on these various climate resilient technology and innovations. With that said, let me pass to my colleague Isolina, who's going to close off. I'm sorry I took so much time, but Isolina, any closing comments? Okay, I think Isolina has some technical difficulties. So let me close off by thanking everyone for joining us today. We really appreciated the quality of information shared, and of course, for your participation, the audience. We invite you to ask us questions, email us, contact us, and we invite you to also share with your colleagues, your other stakeholders, information on this all-important IICA-COLEAD Agribusiness Series. We want to tell you that we have an upcoming session, and we're going to communicate that to you. You're going to see the save the date shortly. And this is really and truly an opportunity for us to share knowledge, for us to collaborate, all with the intention of enhancing livelihoods, not just in the Caribbean, but in Africa, Pacific, as well as Europe. So we are grateful for the support of COLEAD and IICA, and we look forward to continued collaboration. So with that said, have a wonderful day, colleagues. Thank you again, panelists. Thank you, audience. Thank you, COLEAD. Thank you to the IICA team. I want to identify my colleague, Dr. Roxanne Wade, for her support. Axel at COLEAD and Isolina. Wonderful job by everyone. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.